Welcome to the film room. What's the film room, you may ask? Well, let's just say this. The film room is where I slow the game down so that you can actually understand what you're watching. So this whole channel started because I was an NFL fan that needed to learn the game. And so as I began to learn the game, I thought about how others might need to learn the game. So I created In the Play with Jay. But now I realized I need to get back to some things because during this season, it was a lot of things that I had to actually pick up along the way. So if you're ready to learn more about football, or if you're an expert that wants to give us some tips, stay tuned for more. Now, today, we're gonna go over a lot of vocabulary, right? We're talking about the down, the distance, lines of scrimmage. Okay, what's a first down? What's a touchdown? What is a field goal, right? And turnovers, like there's so many different types. And what are all these penalties? Like, why are these flags even being thrown? And what's up with the clock? Yeah, so let's just dive right in, okay? Let's go, right? So the chalk talk behind the film is what's most important. That's where we break everything down. So let's start right off with downs. What is a down? I had no idea, right? Well, a down is a play, a single play now. A down is a single play or an attempt by the offensive team to move the ball forward. Okay, we'll keep going. The offense is given a series of 4 downs. So a down is a try. Okay, so let's start over. Okay, so a down is a single play or an attempt by an offensive team to move the ball forward. The offense is given a series of 4 downs to advance the ball at least 10 yards. Okay, seems pretty simple. But a down begins when the ball is put in play. So like a snap. We'll get into that too. And it ends when the ball is declared dead. Well, we all kind of know what that means. So that basically means that the ball carrier is like tackled. So whoever has the ball, they get taken out, right? Or maybe they run out of bounds, or the pass is thrown, but it's incomplete, like they didn't catch it. So that is what a down is. But like, what does that have to do really with the game? Let's take a look at it. Run the film.
Can stop him now. Too late to the end zone. Touchdown. It's a 101-yard return, tying the longest ever in a postseason game. Steelers show blitz. Here they come. He gets it away, and it's picked off at the goal line. There's a flag thrown on the run back, James Harrison, to run it back, and Harrison is past midfield. Harrison going down the sideline. Harrison still on his feet. Harrison is going to go all the way and waiting for the official to get there. Touchdown is signaled.
Well, it's important because if you notice, they were talking about some yards. And when you start talking about yardage, you're talking about distance. And now, when you talk about distance in the NFL, it's referring to the number of yards that the offense needs to gain to get a new set of 4 downs. Okay, so if the offense goes a certain distance in yards, then they'll be able to pick up 4 downs. So that's also known as the line to gain. Okay, not too bad. Although I didn't know this 6 months ago. Now, at the beginning of like a new series, right? The distance is always 10. 10 yards, you know? That's why, wasn't that a show? Like First and 10? Anyways, now if the team only gains a portion of the required yards, the distance is adjusted for the next down. Here's an example. If you gain 4 yards on the 1st and 10, the result is 2nd and 6, meaning it's the second attempt and it takes 6 more yards to get there. So 6 plus 4 equals 10, and that's what we're going for. seems simple enough. But when you hear it by the announcer, doesn't it scramble your mind? It does for me. Another important term you need to know and position on the field is line of scrimmage. This imaginary line, transverse line across the field that passes through the forward tip of the football as it is spotted on the ground before a play begins. Teams cannot cross their respective sides of the line of scrimmage, which are separated by the length of the football, forming like a neutral zone, like, don't cross this line, don't come across here. Well, that is until the ball is snapped. That's when the ball is snapped to the quarterback. We'll get into it. Anyways, the location of the line of scrimmage is usually the starting point for all of the plays, and it dictates where the players line up. So at the beginning of a play, everyone is lined up and they're ready. They're waiting, right? And sometimes people will cross over that invisible line. Let's take a look at it. Run the film.
The neutral zone is the space between the forward and backward points of the football. A player is offside if he is either lined up in or moves into the neutral zone at the snap.
That's definitely a penalty. But before we get into those, we need to talk about first downs. Now, a first down is when the offense gets the 4 chances, downs, to advance the ball at least 10 yards. Now, the result of this is if they're able to succeed, then they're going to earn a new set of 4 downs, right? So it'll be like a first down, and then they'll continue their drive. That means they're going to continue to drive the ball down the field in an attempt to score. Now, what that will look like if you're watching TV, right? There's a virtual yellow line that's going to show up on the TV, and that determines the yardage to gain for a first down. If you've ever seen that weird yellow line, now you know what that line is. Now, once this game is going and people are moving and the line of scrimmage is lined up and the ball is getting snapped and people are going for downs, that's the offense. You have to worry about some other things, like fumbles. Everyone should know about this, but I'm not talking about fumbling your boo. I'm talking about fumbling the ball. So that's when a player in possession of the ball drops it or mishandles it, or they get it and it slips, or it just can't stay in the pocket. Fumble, okay? Now, that fumble is a form of a turnover, right? Because by fumbling the ball, sometimes it can cause a turnover if the other team is able to get the ball, right? Now, a turnover it's only if the defense recovers a fumble ball. So that's why I was saying that fumble turns into a turnover. Now, it's not a turnover if the offense recovers its own ball. So let's just say the quarterback throws the ball and the wide receiver does not catch it. It fumbles to the ground, but they're able to scramble and get it. Then that is not a turnover. It will remain with the team. But if the opposing team gets that fumbled ball and it is recovered, that is a turnover because now they're going to be snapping the ball. Now, another thing that causes a turnover is an interception. So, like I said, if the quarterback throws the ball to the wide receiver and let's just say someone from the opposing team blocks that and grabs the ball, then that is an interception where they have intercepted the ball. Okay, it's not continuing with the offense, and now the defense has it, and they can actually run the ball and score a touchdown for their team. Let's take a look at it. Run the film.
Clock running inside of 5 minutes. Ward goes through his progressions. Everyone covered, slings it back. It's deflected and picked. Taylor Demerson, and then the football came out. Who recovers? Tennessee for the touchdown in a crazy sequence. Tyler Lockett, the recovery, unreal.
You know what? You see things that you've never seen before if you hang around long enough. We call this an ABA play. A, offense has the football originally. B, recovers or intercepts, finishes their ball back to A. Really now you've just really had, I think Sean Smith did a good job of saying interception. You see now he completes the interception, takes 3 steps. Nobody's touched him. He's not down by contact. Football loose. We see the scrum. Tennessee ends up with the football in the end zone. Result of the play, touchdown.
Gene, I've got a question for you. To me, I know he does take an extra step, but is that a situation where it's questionable if he survived the ground with that catch?
Yes, most definitely, Adam. It's the first thing that I looked at as well.
He's got Bolden and Fitzgerald to the left. He's got Breaston to the right. 18 seconds.
Well, they can pick down here.
From the gun, Steelers show blitz. Here they come. He gets it away, and it's picked off at the goal line.
That's right. I know. It's a lot. Don't worry about it. It's so much more to learn, but at least you'll have this video to refer back to in case you're a little bit confused. And while you're at it, be sure to comment and subscribe. You know, just click that button down below because I want to make sure that you continue to come back so that you can learn just the way that I had to. Now, the next thing we want to go over is pick 6. Now, this was something I learned this season. Pick six. I was hearing that. So, pick 6 is a specific type of interception where the defender runs the ball into the opponent's end zone for a touchdown. That's right. That's what I was talking about. Like, if the offense, which would be the quarterback, throws the ball and it is received by the wide receiver, right? That's one thing, because now that team is trying to score. But if the defense jumps in and intercepts the ball and runs and scores, that's actually considered a pick 6. That's right. Now, there are other types of turnovers, like turnovers on downs. That's like when the offense fails to gain enough yards for the first down or a touchdown on the 4th down, you know, and that gives the ball to the other team, giving them a spot, right? And then there's also an indirect turnover. That's where you didn't even really mean for it to happen, but it's called a safety. That's right. That's where an offensive player is tackled in their own end zone, resulting in points for the defense and a free kick. Yeah, that's right, a free kick. And now, when it comes to turnovers, these are really, really, really important critical plays, right? They can turn the game around, change the momentum, change the way the score looks, have a big influence on the outcome of the game. And it also can discourage the players because it gives the opponents great field position. So you don't want too many of those, unless it's happening for your team, right? Let's take a look at it. Run the film.
Super Bowl MVP with Baltimore. Brooks was the back. Flacco will go underneath. Oh, it's picked off. That's a pick 6. Kiss him goodbye. Marcus Jones. Our second pick 6 in this one. Going each way. And New England has captured the lead.
Watch the hesitation when he comes off the flake. He comes off the fake. He wants to get to T. Higgins on the sideline, and he actually starts his throwing motion that way. And then when he goes to throw the outlet to the flat, he doesn't take his eyes there.
But now, sometimes when we're diving into this game, there are a lot of penalties. Yep, that's right. The ref is blowing the whistle. I don't necessarily know if I hear them blow whistles, but you know what I mean. I just like the whistle. Anyway, so when it comes to like penalties, like you need to know this because sometimes I feel that certain penalties don't get called and certain things aren't called or challenged. And we'll get into that later. But one of the biggest things that occurs, and it occurs all the time, is a false start. The false start is when they're all lined up at that line of scrimmage, you know, when they're all bent down and ready to hike the ball, you know. Well, if someone gets too eager and they cross that invisible line, guess what? You are committing a false start. And that's where an offensive player makes a sudden movement. It could be even a flinch, right? But if you're lined up and the ball has not snapped and you make a move, false start, right? And so that is a penalty. Now, here's an example, just to make sure you got it, right? So if an offensive lineman suddenly moves their hand, or like a receiver takes a step forward before the ball is hiked, that is a penalty. And that is actually a 5-yard penalty. So start thinking about that when we're thinking about the 1st and 10 and getting those downs. Could you imagine having to go back 5 yards because someone was offsides? Penalty. Let's take a look at it. Run the film.
Right, we are late in the game and things are pretty much completely out of hand for the Commanders, and I just talked about that gutsy 4th down fake punt and how well it was executed, but that was like the last good thing that happened to them. So now they are completely on their back foot. Things almost out of reach entirely as the Eagles have an 11-point lead in the 4th quarter, and they are at the ever dangerous 1-yard line, which is pretty much guaranteed points for the Eagles thanks to the tush push, the brotherly shove, call it what you want, but on 1st and goal at the 1-yard line, you might as well call it a touchdown. So the Commanders are going to have to pull out every single stop, and by all the stops, they're going to have to try to jump the snap. Now you might think that that's not a literal phrase, but nobody told the Commanders that, who literally jumped over the snapper twice, which is a good way to stop this play, assuming the ball is actually snapped, which it wasn't either time, which makes you think, could you just keep jumping offsides to delay the inevitable indefinitely? Well, you can't, and although that's not at all what was happening, because the Eagles were clearly hard counting, trying to draw them offsides, what we got though was the refs threatening the Commanders with this.
Number 93. Washington has been advised that at some point the referee can award a score if this type of behavior happens again. For now, it's a replay of 2nd down.
To prevent a score after a warning, even though it's 2 separate people here, can lead to what is called a palpably unfair act.
Another form of offsides happens when the defense is offside. So that's like if a defensive player goes beyond that neutral space. Remember, that is the width of the ball. And that's that space between the lines of scrimmage, right? So if the ball hasn't snapped and the defense gets in that neutral zone, penalty. So here's a deep breakdown. The defensive lineman lines up, right? And they're past the center. And the defender jumps across the line of scrimmage just before the snap. Penalty, 5 yards, right? So you don't want to do that either, because perhaps this team is not doing so good. Their offense sucks. Your defense is on the money, but you make a mistake and get that penalty. Now you're giving them 3 yards. So you never want to do that. Never. It can be good for your team sometimes, but not if you're the one getting a penalty. Now, there are some other penalties, and these I had to learn about because holding happens so much, right? This happens on the offense and the defense. So when you talk about holding, this is like illegally grabbing or like hooking or like restraining your opponent, you know, and they're not even carrying the ball, but you're preventing them from making a full play. Yep, that's right, holding, another penalty. Whew. Now, this is a full example, right? If an offensive lineman, right, uses his hands to grab a defensive player while trying to rush the quarterback, holding. Same thing for defense. If a defensive player pulls back a receiver running a pass route, holding. And you know what that is a result of? Okay, so for the offense, that would be 10 yards. That's a 10-yard penalty, right? Automatic 1st down. Or it could be 5-yard penalty if you're the defense. So you don't want to have players that are real handsy. Like, they got to know the rules. There's certain elements that you just can't do when it comes down to blocking and preventing the other team from getting the ball. You have to follow the rules of the NFL, and they're forever changing, right? Let's take a look at it. Run the film.
Grabbing and tackling an opponent. Hooking or twisting the opponent. Grabbing and turning the opponent. And pulling him to the ground.
Now, one of the main things that I think people who don't really know the game but like the game need to make sure that they understand is what's up with this clock? What's up with the time? Okay? So a football game is broken into quarters, right? Now, if you're not good with math, just stay with me, right? Just think of it like this. You got your clock, right? And the clock is in a breakdown of 4, right? So just think, the clock is a pie and you got 4 slices, right? 2 of those slices are the first quarter and the second quarter. After you eat those 2, you need a break. That's called halftime. That's when teams make adjustments, and this usually happens always in the middle. So between second and third quarter, because there's a total of 4. Remember I said we got 4 slices of pie? That's right. Now, there is another important moment in time of the game, other than knowing the quarters and being able to keep up with the clock. It's the 2-minute warning. Now, the 2-minute warning is an automatic official time that occurs when the game clock reaches 2 minutes remaining, right? So this is really, really important, right? And this is not just for the NFL. This is also for college football as well. This is mainly something that was established when clocks and refs were not always in sync, and the ref was the only true official timekeeper. But now things are a little different, but keeping that 2-minute warning is still a tradition of the game. So once you know those things, you pretty much got some of the basics. And you can always come back to this video. Like I said, comment, let me know what you think. Subscribe, share the channel. If you don't know what some of these terms mean, don't feel bad. I didn't either. And now I'm a whole football content YouTuber, whatever, right? But I love it. I love that I'm learning, and I love that I can help others. So be sure to comment, share, and subscribe to In the Play with Jay. And if you want more from the film room, right, stay tuned right here.